what is the State Library eCard? Well, we call it a few different things, or we don't, but you know, you might hear it called that. The State Library eCard, the Kansas Library eCard, whatever you call it, it's the same thing. It's the state library's digital library card that allows users to access our ebook and audio collections, as well as access our databases and other online resources remotely if they aren't able to access it through the geo-verified links that are on our website. If you don't already have admin credentials, you can go to this link here, and I'll show you what that looks like. Just adjust my share here. All right, so here is the Kansas Library Card admin page, and to check out the actual login, you just hit admin login there. And then it's going to take you to a login page, of course. Now, if you don't know your library's admin information, you just click this link over here that says need your library administrator login. That takes you to a form where you can just fill that out and tell us who you are, and put your email address in there, and then we can send out the information to you. Do make sure that in the email address box you use your work email address, because that allows us, that tells us, you know, that you're legit, that you actually work for the library that you say you work for, and we aren't just giving out that information to anybody. In addition, you can find instructions and an FAQ that covers most of the information that we'll be talking about today at our Niche Academy. So you can find that on our website as well. Over here on the right-hand side, it says tutorials. And at the very top is audiobooks moving to cloud library. And you just go through that, and it's going to give you much of the same information that we will be talking about here today. So don't feel like you have to memorize any of it. So who's eligible for a state library eCard? We've had a lot of questions about this lately, and now have sort of nailed that down on our public side. But I'll go through that now. Any resident of Kansas is eligible for a state library eCard. There aren't any age limits, but obviously if a kid is young enough that they can't ask for it themselves, they'd have to have a parent request that on their behalf. Additionally, we have some special residents that can also get a library card. Those are students or faculty that are enrolled or employed at a Kansas college or university. So that means even remote students. So if we've got students who are remotely attending a Kansas university, they are still eligible for the library card. And so if they call you up and present all the information that you would need to give them that card, and the only barrier is that they live in another state, but they are attending a Kansas college or university, you are well within your rights to give them a card. In addition, employees who are currently employed at locations in Kansas, even if they live outside of the state, are also eligible. Additionally, anyone who's in the military and a resident of Kansas but deployed elsewhere is absolutely eligible for a card, as are military members who aren't native to Kansas but are here, stationed here with the military. And we encourage you to just use the vetting processes that you use in your library. that you typically use to make sure that patrons are eligible for your cards. We just encourage you to use those same processes. Typically, if a patron has already gotten a library card through your local library, we encourage you to just go ahead and give them a state library card, because they've obviously shown that they are a resident of Kansas in order to get a public library card with you. So they are therefore also eligible for the statewide card. And real quick, I just want to give you a quick reminder of how to use the Kansas Library eCard Administrator portal here. So once we've logged in, the very first thing we're going to want to do when we have a patron that we think needs a state library card is to look them up to make sure that we don't accidentally create a duplicate card, because that can cause confusion with the patron and also confusion when it comes time to renew their library card. I apologize, my internet seems to be slow this morning, so I appreciate your patience. Here we go. So as I said, the first thing we'll do is look them up. So we'll hit look up an existing account, and then we can look up that person's name. So let's try one of our test cards, Clara Twain. So she came in looking for a card, and oh, it turns out she already has one. And I can see there, I can confirm that her date of birth is correct. Ask her date of birth and make sure that this is indeed her and not another Clara Twain. And I can also see from this page that her card doesn't expire until June 22nd of 2021. So it is still in working condition, and she shouldn't have any trouble accessing anything. If we want to dig a little deeper, we can tap the library card number here that's labeled Patron ID. And then we can actually go in and make changes. If she comes in saying, I've changed my last name, or the person who typed in my first name initially typed it in incorrectly, we can go in and change any of those things, and we can also add an email address. We can also change the date of birth if that was input incorrectly. As you may or may not know, the date of birth is the key to, the second key to a patron's access to state library materials. So they'll need their library card number, that 6-digit number that we saw there on the search page, in addition to their date of birth. The date of birth is going to serve as their PIN or password, and that's going to be input in year or month with 2 digits, day with 2 digits, and year with 4 digits. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. Actually, let me finish showing you the admin side first here. So we can see all that information there. And let's say she came in and said, I see that it's been 2 years and I want to go ahead and renew my card. We can do that here as well. Click on the patron ID and then hit renew. And then we can see it's been renewed to 3 years from today's date. So let's say instead that we've got a new patron. We sure don't have an account. So we're going to click create an account. And then we'll come in here and enter all of their information. And once that information has been input, let's just put this in here. Just do this one to pretend. So it would help if I All right, and in this particular instance, since Abraham Lincoln appears not to have had a middle initial, that serves as a great example of what to do in that case. We can either put a period or an X or anything just to satisfy that field because it is a required field. Now it turns out that Abe doesn't have an email address with on file, or that he wants to share with us, so we won't include that. But we will input his date of birth, and this is actually going to go in the same exact way that your patron would enter it, with 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the day, and 14 digits for the year. Now, the only thing that's different is that your patrons won't be entering the slashes. You will when you initially put them in, as it helps the system to delineate the different parts of the date, but they won't have to do that. Once you hit create profile, then up here at the top of the form will go all blank, but at the top it says user created. User ID is, and that'll give you the 6-digit number that tells you what their library card is. You'll give that to the patron and inform them about their PIN or password being their date of birth, and they can go in immediately and start accessing our resources.